Time for NCW Life News on the NCW Life channel. The latest from around the Wenatchee Valley and North Central Washington with Steve Hare, and sports with Eric Granstrom.
And a good evening and welcome to NCW Life Channel News. I'm Eric Granstrom filling in for Steve Hare. A few of the stories that we're following for you tonight: an update on the fires throughout North Central Washington. It was a better day today. The state budget and where the legislature stands on their deadline, and the Mariachi Wenatchee heads to Washington, D.C. this fall. Later on, we'll have sports, our feature story on the grand opening of a new business in East Wenatchee, and your weather forecast with Dan Kuntz. First up, strong gusty winds have pushed the Wenatchee area fires to over 56,500 acres of blackened sage and grasslands in Chelan, Douglas, and Grant counties. No homes have been lost and no injuries reported as the command structure transitioned today to a higher priority Type 2 management team. Steve Hare files a report from the Wenatchee High School base camp.
Well, we've now entered day 4 in the Wenatchee area brush fires, and joining me right now from the Wenatchee High School, which is kind of serving as a base camp and headquarters for the Unified Command, battling the Spartan, the Sutherland Canyon, and the Straight Hollow fires here in Chelan, Douglas, now Grant counties as well. Holly Craig joins me now from Unified Command, and as I understand, we're transitioning to a Type 2 team. Is that right, Holly?
That's correct.
Step up here a little closer to me.
All right, a Type 2 incident management team did assume command of these fires at 6 a.m. this morning.
Okay. Obviously, a lot more beneficial weather for the firefighters out there, a lot calmer today.
That's correct. So for the past 2 days, the extreme growth on these fires has really been driven by red flag conditions, gusty winds, hot, dry temperatures. We're still going to have hot and dry today, but the winds should be a little bit calmer, not driving the head of the fire so much.
We saw significant behavior by the Sutherland Canyon fire, especially yesterday. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so particularly on the Sutherland Canyon fire, which you can see here, there was growth to the south as well as significant growth to the east. And again, that was really driven by the red flag warning conditions, sustained gusts of 20 and 30 miles an hour. So quite a bit of active fire behavior in that grass and brush.
Obviously, and certainly some difficult terrain, I guess, for the firefighters.
Yeah, so even just looking at Moses Coulee here, you're looking at 2,000 feet of elevation change, some very steep and rugged canyons here, and so we're engaging the fire where it's safe to do so, but human and public safety is our #1 concern. So we're only going to put firefighters and resources where we can safely utilize them. So looking where we can put dozer lines, looking where we can put hand crews, keeping them out of some of that steep and rugged terrain where it wouldn't be safe. And then also using retardant drops and water drops where we can.
Okay, and as we understand, in Grant County, there's the Sheriff's Office has issued some new evacuation levels for those folks up in the Monument Hill area, but it's fairly sparsely populated out in that area, isn't it?
Yeah, so Grant County last night, the Sheriff's Office did issue level 2 evacuations, which means collect your medications, your important documents, your pets, be ready to leave in an instant. It's not a level 3, but very close, and that was really for this Monument Hill area to the northwest of Quincy.
So again, what is the strategy for today on the Sutherland Canyon fire?
So the strategy for today is aggressive attack. Again, we want to keep it out of the community of Quincy, limit any agricultural issues that might be out there for farmers and ranchers. And then there's also quite a bit of critical sage grouse habitat with BLM. So we're really looking to aggressively move in here with dozer lines, crews, and water drops, retardant drops, if we think they'd be effective to help halt the spread.
I know you've been doing some backburning in some of the fire areas. Has that been successful?
It has been. However, we have not been able to do as much as we might ordinarily have been able to because of the high winds that have lasted well into the night. So not last night, but the night before, we were able to do some significant burnout operations, about 600 acres in this area to the north and east of the Sutherland Canyon, as well as a 1.5 miles in the Spartan fire as well.
Okay. No structures lost so far. Very lucky.
Yeah, if there's a silver lining in all of this, it's that we haven't had any reported significant injuries or losses of structures.
battling fire in this terrain and in this weather is going to be taxing on the firefighters themselves. Have you had any injuries?
We have not had any significant injuries to date, but every morning before the crews go out, we do a full safety briefing, and that includes everything from watching out for rattlesnakes to making sure that they're monitoring their fluids and their temperatures so that we don't have the heat stroke, heat exhaustion, those type of things that can creep up.
Holly Craig joining us right now here from the Incident Command, handling the 3 fires that are burning in Chelan, Douglas, and now Grant counties. Anything else you'd like to add before we let you go, Holly?
Absolutely. So we're coming up on an important holiday weekend. Just want to remind folks to check where they're going to be camping. If they're planning on having a campfire, make sure there's not a campfire ban. Additionally, fireworks are illegal on a lot of public lands, including the National Forest and BLM lands. And lastly, it's wildfire season once again in Central Washington. So if homeowners would like to help firefighters, the best thing that they can do is create defensible space. I encourage everybody to visit fireadapted.org to learn how they can make their home more defensible and safer for firefighters if they had to protect it in the future.
Good advice for all of us folks that live in North Central Washington. Thank you, Holly, for giving us an update. I'm Steve Hare, NCW Life News.
Thank you much for that report, Steve. The good news that came out later this afternoon in reference to the Palisades area is the level 3 evacuation notifications were dropped down to a level 1, allowing those few residents to get back into the Palisades area to take care of their homes. Coming up, we'll take a look at where the legislature stands on adopting a state budget, and if they can't, how that might impact not only your camping, but fishing plans for the weekend. And the Wenatchee High School Mariachi Band gets a special invitation from Congress. I'm Eric Grandstrom, and you're watching NCW Life Channel News.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life Community Calendar at ncwlife.com.
Welcome back to NCW Life Channel News. I'm Eric Grandstrom filling in for Steve Hare. Shortly before we took the air tonight, I had a chance to speak via phone to Olympia and Senator Brad Hawkins in relation to the budget negotiations ongoing before tomorrow's deadline and a drop-dead date for the legislature for the next 2-year biennium. He told me that negotiators had apparently worked out a tentative agreement earlier today. They had a chance to go over the budget details and maybe be taking a vote tonight. We hope to have more on that tomorrow morning with Steve Hare on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley right here on the NCW Life Channel. The search in Lake Chelan for a missing University of Washington student Dong-Hoon Lee continued today. Lee, a 23-year-old man, remains missing and presumed drowned after disappearing on Lake Chelan while boating with 2 friends Tuesday, June 20th. Lee was from South Korea studying at the UW on a student visa. Deputies from the Chelan County Sheriff's Office searched the shoreline between the Lookout Development and Lakeside Park today. Lee was not wearing a life jacket at the time of his disappearance and was reportedly wearing a red button-up shirt. Sergeant Rob Huddleston reported that a helicopter was on the scene to continue aiding in the search for Lee. The city of Wenatchee hosts a ribbon-cutting ceremony this evening for its newest park. Saddle Rock Gateway Park will be formally dedicated at 6:30. The new park serves as a trailhead for the popular Saddle Rock Trail, and it features new picnic shelters and restrooms. The park was built using a mix of grant and local funding. The Saddle Rock Gateway is located at the end of Circle Street, near the same site as the previous Saddle Rock temporary parking area. Well, a tentative agreement on a budget is said to be working its way through Olympia. The question is whether they'll get it done and in place before this weekend. If they fail, 15 state parks in North Central Washington would close just in time for one of the busiest weekends of the summer. Just in this area, closures would impact Wenatchee Confluence, Lincoln Rock, Daroga, Lake Chelan, 25 Mile Creek, Lake Wenatchee, Alta Lake, Peregrine Lake, Bridgeport, Conconelli, Steamboat Rock, Sun Lakes, Dry Falls, Potholes, and Curlew Lake. In addition, a government shutdown in Washington would close non-tribal fishing seasons on lakes, rivers, and saltwater marine areas throughout the state. The only exception would be the commercial and recreational Dungeness crab fisheries currently in progress off the Washington coast. All other fisheries would be closed, including those on the Columbia River, Puget Sound, and on rivers, streams, and lakes across the state. The Washington state shutdown would delay the start of several fishing seasons that are scheduled to open in early July, including recreational crabbing in parts of the Puget Sound and a popular sockeye salmon fishery at Baker Lake in Whatcom County. Department of Fish and Wildlife staff would not be available to process rule changes required to open further fisheries, including the potential sockeye fishery at Lake Wenatchee in Chelan County. And all Department of Fish and Wildlife boat launches and water access sites would be closed as well. So as an outdoor recreation person myself, certainly hope that they get that deal done. Well, the Mariachi Wenatchee will get a national audience this October when they travel to Washington, D.C. to play for Congress. Ramon Rivera spoke about the opportunity to the Wenatchee School Board earlier this week.
They chose a group nationally to represent Hispanic Heritage Month for the United States Congress. And Speaker Ryan, actually Congressman Reichert nominated us for us to perform, and the Speaker of the House wanted us to perform and be in front of Congress, in front of a national audience, and get an opportunity to visit the White House and visit the Congress and visit the Latino caucus. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of activities. He's also going to give us a special tour of that only congressmen get to go on. So now Mr. Helm wanted to go with me, so you know, I'm volunteering. I just think it's a humongous opportunity for our kids to be on the national stage and be the national media, and also to celebrate, have our opportunity. He also put an invitation to meet Mr. Pence and Mr. Trump and see if we could meet them also and meet his friends in the Congress. I always tell the kids you got to dream big and think big, and I said in an article about 4 years ago, they asked me, what's the next thing that you're going to do for your program? I said, we're going to play for the president, and we're getting pretty darn close. So.
Certainly a treasure to have Ramon Rivera and Mariachi Wenatchee right here in the Wenatchee Valley. You're watching NCW Life Channel News. Coming up next, I'll have your sports update and our feature today on the grocery outlet, a new business opening at the Wenatchee Valley Mall.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.
And now it's a sports update on the NCW Life Channel.
Thanks for watching us here on the NCW Life Channel. The Wenatchee Apple Sox had to erase an early deficit for the second consecutive night, but were able to do so en route to a 9-3 win over Port Angeles at Paul Thomas Senior Field last night. Cole McKenzie started the comeback in the bottom of the third with the lefties on top 2-0. The Gonzaga sophomore out of Billings, Montana, sent a 1-1 pitch over the wall for his first home run of the summer. Wenatchee went on to score 4 runs in the inning and chase Port Angeles starting pitcher Trayan Kubo from the ballgame. That proved to be plenty of offense for the Sox starter Connor McCord, who went 6 innings, allowing 2 runs, 6 hits, striking out 4 to improve his season record to 3-0. Adrian Vela sparked Wenatchee's offense on the night, going 2 for 5 with a double and 3 ribbies. Wenatchee goes for the sweep tonight when the Apple Sox send Hunter Boyd to the mound against the lefties Andrew Zamuda. First pitch at 7:05. Also in West Coast League play last night, it was Victoria downing Corvallis 4-0. 3 Harbor Cat pitchers. 3 hit the Knights in that contest. The Gresham Wolves used a 4-run 8th to break a 2-2 tie and held on for a 6-4 win over Walla Walla. The Yakima Valley's Pippin's Dylan Plew went 4 for 5 with a home run as they beat Bend 7-3. And Kelowna and Cowlitz, we had to wait for a long time to get the final on this one. They went into the 14th inning before the Falcons' Josh Glenn hit a walk-off RBI double. 6-5 the final. Kelowna gets the victory. So the standings have Kelowna on top in first place, Bellingham second. Wenatchee Apple Sox now 3 games over 500, sitting in third place in the West Coast League. Well, the Wenatchee Wild's 2017-18 hockey schedule is out. The Wild will have 28 home games on the schedule beginning September 16th against Vernon and wrapping up February 17th against Trail. It appears the Wild will play sparingly at home in the first part of the season, get busier with home games in December, January, and February, including a stretch of 8 out of 9 games at home in late January and early February. Voice of the Wild, Arch Ecker, was a recent guest on Wake Up Wenatchee Valley to describe how the scheduling works.
Now we've got an island division, and out on Vancouver Island you got 5 teams out there, and that presents the biggest hurdle logistically as far as scheduling across the league. So what the league does is they actually schedule the out-of-conference games for the island first. They say, look, we're not going to let this thing get out of hand. You guys go here, you go here, and so that's the structure, that's sort of the skeleton that they give you, and then they hand it off, and then the teams can kind of piece the rest of it together.
Ecker says the league comes together each year near Vancouver to hash out the details of who gets what dates at home.
And everyone comes together and they sit basically across the table and they say, okay, well, look, I got, the first weekend of January, I've got Ice who wants to come here. And they'll
And that's
say,
a
well,
whole other aspect because you have arenas. I mean, the Town Toyota Center is busy throughout the.
Well,
you got to work around trade shows and all kinds of things.
Right, and we're not the only one.
Right.
Penticton, Chilliwack, there's a handful of them that have multi-event facilities, and availability is always a stopper. And then you get things like, for example, the big Wenatchee-Eastmont game, right? Like, we don't want to schedule head-to-head against that, so we kind of put a little red X on our thing. Like, look, we don't want to have to play on that night, so we try to schedule ourselves on the road. When somebody out there in Penticton goes, who wants to come and play here on October, whatever the date is, right? We're like, we'll be.
Yeah.
And it looks like they did avoid the Bridge of Sportsmanship game and that big football tilt between Wenatchee and Eastmont. On Friday, October 7th, the Wild will host Alberni Valley the next night, October 28th. Go to WenatcheeWildHockey.com to see this year's schedule. Well, at some point, you got to wonder if the Mariners are going to have to pull the plug on closer Edwin Diaz. The closer for Seattle got shelled again in the ninth inning yesterday, blowing a 4-3 lead, allowing a Tommy Joseph home run and a balk and a RBI single for Andrew Knapp as Seattle fell to Philadelphia 5-4. This game follows the night before's performance when Diaz imploded, allowing 4 runs on 3 hits, including a 2-run home run to Aaron Alther. Seattle got solo home runs yesterday from Kyle Seager, Danny Valencia, and Robinson Cano. Manager Scott Service talked about the rocky start and better finish by starter Felix Hernandez.
Great game, but many days it can be very cruel. You can't, you got to get all 27 outs, and then today we had a tough time, obviously, in the ninth inning. I thought, Felix got better as the game went along. After he struggled a little bit in the third game with the home run and then got out of it with the bases loaded double play, but I thought he really kind of, regathered and got us, deep, giving us 6 innings, 3 runs, pretty good effort by him. Offensively, not a ton. We got some middle of the lineup guys, Cruzy driving in a run, homers from Seager and Cano were great. Valencia just absolutely smoked that ball, and I think from late in the third inning to the ninth, we didn't give up a hit. So, unfortunately, like I said, you got to get all 27 outs. And
they didn't get that done very well yesterday. Seattle's now 2 games under 500. They'll travel to Anaheim to begin a weekend series with the Angels on Friday. Also in the American League last night, Cleveland beat Texas 5-4. It was Houston pounding Oakland 11-8. And the Angels got by the Dodgers in that battle of LA teams 3-2. American League West League standings have Houston still on top. The Mariners back in 4th place. That's a look at sports news on the NCW Life channel. And now for our feature today. East Wenatchee welcomed a new retailer to the Wenatchee Valley Mall this morning with a ribbon cutting for the new grocery outlet store. Owners Kathy LaForce and her husband Carl also own the store on North Wenatchee Avenue. She says their business is locally driven.
We are a family-owned company, and we hire only local, so we want to really support Wenatchee that way. Carl and I will always be out on the floor. You can always come talk to us, tell us any concerns. We're very excited. This Saturday is our grand opening, and we got all kinds of events going on Saturday. Too many to list, so you got to come in on Saturday. I know that the first 100 people get 25% off their groceries, so that's a big deal. So buy a lot.
On Saturday.
On Saturday.
During today's ceremony, the LaForces also presented a $1,000 check to Lighthouse Ministries, and they're offering discounts to shoppers who donate money or food items to the Lighthouse Food Bank today and Saturday. We'll be back in just a minute to recap today's top stories and your weather forecast for North Central Washington. You're watching NCW Life Channel News.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life community calendar at ncwlife.com.
Welcome Welcome back to NCW Life Channel News. I'm Eric Granstrom, recapping our top stories. Strong gusty winds have pushed the Wenatchee area fires to over 56,500 acres and blackened sage and grasslands in Chelan, Douglas, and Grant counties. No homes have been lost and no injuries reported as the command structure transitioned today to a higher priority Type 2 management team. Fire crews were expected to make more progress today, building and strengthening hand lines, and homeowners are breathing a little easier today with the calmer weather conditions. The evacuation levels have been lowered to level 1 advisories on the Spartan Fire in Chelan County. Level 2 and 3 advisories remain in effect for Grant counties. Actually, Douglas County did lower to a 1 that evacuation notification on the Palisades area. Sutherland Canyon Fire and Straight Hollow fires will continue to follow it over the next several days. The search in Lake Chelan for a missing University of Washington student Dong Hoon Lee continued today. Lee, a 23-year-old man, remains missing and presumed drowned after disappearing on Lake Chelan while boating with 2 friends June 20th. Lee was from South Korea studying at the University of Washington on a student visa. Deputies from the Chelan County Sheriff's Office searched the shoreline between Lookout Development and Lakeside Park today. Lee was not wearing a life jacket at the time of his disappearance and was reportedly wearing a red button-up shirt. Sergeant Rob Huddleston reported that a helicopter was on the scene to continue aiding in that search for Lee today. The city of Wenatchee hosts a ribbon-cutting ceremony this evening for its newest park. Saddle Rock Gateway Park will be formally dedicated at 6:30 tonight. The new park serves as a trailhead for the popular Saddle Rock Trail, and it features new picnic shelters and restrooms. The park was built using a mix of grant and local funding. Saddle Rock Park Gateway is located at the end of Circle Street near the same site as the previous Saddle Rock temporary parking area. And now Dan Kuntz has your weather forecast for north central Washington.
High pressure will continue to build over north central Washington over the next couple of days, bringing with it lots of sunshine and warm temperatures for the foreseeable future. The winds that were fueling the area wildfires have subsided outside of slightly breezy conditions expected on Saturday. For tonight, clear and mild. Overnight low of about 63. Highs in the lower 90s are expected for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Highs in the upper 80s to lower 90s will be the norm through at least Wednesday of next week. And that's your forecast on the NCW Life Channel.
Thank you much, Dan. I'm hoping for some good weather next week. I will be off on vacation. Steve Hare will take good care of you. And don't forget, coming up on Tuesday night, we have the Independence Day celebration right here on the NCW Life Channel. From the Town Toyota Center roof, we'll be looking across at Walla Walla Point Park to bring you all of the sights and sounds of our Independence celebration happening at Walla Walla Point Park with Let's Have a Blast. We'll have that starting at 9 o'clock Tuesday night right here on the NCW Life Channel. And also, I'll take a quick moment to mention that we have a new person that's joining us next week. We welcome Grant Olson to the airways here at the NCW Life Channel. We know Grant will do a great job for us, and we look forward to having him on the air and possibly during that broadcast on Tuesday nights with Dan Kuntz. The Apple Sox wrap up their series tonight with the Port Angeles Lefties in town going for the sweep tonight. 7:05 start time, so get out there and support the Apple Sox. If you have any information for us on the stories here or you have any questions, be sure and stop by our website at ncwlifechannel.com. You can also find us on Facebook. Our website, that again, is ncwlife.com. Remember, if you see news happening, we'd like to hear from you. You can send us an email at news@ncwlife.com or give us a call at 888-NCWL. I'm Eric Granstrom. Have a good night.
This has been NCW Life News on the NCW Life Channel. For more news, log on to ncwlife.com. Like us on Facebook and follow NCW Life Channel on Twitter.
Get the fastest internet available in north central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.